She said, we need to accept the majority's decision. And so, Your Honors, consistent with such pronouncements by Vice President Leni Robredo, we interpose no objection to the inclusion in the canvass of all the certificates of canvass for President from the various provincial and city boards of canvassers found by this Honorable Board to be authentic and duly executed.
We would like to recognize and thank the patriotism exhibited by Vice President Leni Robredo for expressly recognizing the integrity and the result of the recently concluded general elections.
We begin tonight with scenes from the opening of Congress convening as a National Board of Canvassers. Vice President Leni Robredo's counsel and election lawyer Romulo Macalintal waived their appearance before the Joint Canvassing Committee to speed up their proceedings. The camp declared no objection to the inclusion of the certificates of canvass, echoing Robredo's call to supporters to accept the decision of the majority.
Attorney Vic Rodriguez of the Marcos camp thanked Robredo for recognizing the result of the elections. The partial unofficial tally shows Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in the lead with 31 million votes, followed by Robredo with 14 million votes. Time for today's biggest headlines. I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I'm Ed Lingao. You're watching The Big Story. The 18th Congress has convened in a joint session on Tuesday to canvass the votes for President and Vice President in the 2022 elections.
Since switching to automated polls in 2010, canvassing of votes has gotten quicker, with Congress now aiming for a 24-hour canvass of the votes. Let's get the latest on the canvassing with Marian Enriquez, who is joining us live from the Batasang Pambansa complex in Quezon City. Maan, how's the vote canvassing going so far, and what's the latest vote count?
Yes, Gretchen, as of 7:50 p.m., about 39.88% or 69 out of 173 COCs have already been canvassed. You know, presumptive President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is still leading with 11.16 million votes, and Mayor Sara Duterte with 11.11 million votes.
Oh, okay, man. So earlier we heard from the camps of VP Leni Robredo and Isko Moreno having no objection to the official canvassing of votes. Now, what exactly does that mean?
Yes, Bog. Actually, Attorney Romulo Macalintal, the legal counsel of Vice President Leni Robredo, earlier manifested, about, accepting the decision of the majority, and they've earlier said that they will no longer object to the inclusion of all the COCs that have already been validated by the Congress. They've also manifested to waive their appearance before the Joint Committee of the Senate and the House sitting as the National Board of Canvassers. Bok.
Can I
Go ahead.
Bok, just to clarify and to qualify, is this the same as a concession or hindi pa? I mean, we're trying to divine what exactly it means.
We cannot actually rule that it was like they're trying to concede, no? Hindi pa naman ganun yung nakikita natin, pero they're just trying to say na nandito sila sa backseat at hayaan nila na mag-roll nga itong canvassing, and they won't be objecting dito sa gumugulong na canvassing right now.
Now, Maan, when is Congress expected to wrap up its canvassing of votes, and what is the timetable now for when they will conclude this? And do we have any information if Bongbong Marcos will attend and be present for the proclamation?
Actually, Gretchen, the Joint Committee is looking to proclaim the new President and Vice President of the Philippines by Wednesday night, that's tomorrow, or latest by Thursday morning. Actually, Senate Majority Leader Mig Zubiri earlier said that they've actually talked to both camps, Marcos Jr. and Inday Sara Duterte, and both have confirmed their attendance for the possible date of proclamation, which might happen tomorrow in the evening. And actually, BBM said Marcos camp Spokesperson Attorney Vic Rodriguez earlier said that they are ready and just waiting for the proclamation. And we've also received a statement from Mayor Inday Sara Duterte's spokesperson, Mayor Cristina Frasco, and she said that the mayor has just earlier set a visit to a wake of her supporter and, best efforts to make it on time here in Manila.
Okay, maraming salamat. Marian Enriquez reporting live from Batasang Pambansa in Quezon City. Lanao del Sur has conducted a special elections in 12 barangays today, weeks after a failure of elections was declared in these areas.
Local authorities say that no untoward incidents were recorded throughout the voting period. Jenny Dongon with the report.
As early as 4 in the morning, soldiers and policemen were seen guarding the VCMs in Tubaran, Lanao del Sur. Over 1,000 personnel were deployed to ensure peace and order during the special elections on Tuesday. Recall that commotions and other election-related violence prompted local authorities to cancel the May 9 polls. The COMELEC says the situation has been put under control.
Mabuti yung pagboto namin. Ay walang gulo. Masayang-masaya ako ay nakaboto ako.
Mas safe kami. Lahat ng dumaan na eleksyon, mas maganda ngayon. Safe yung mga botante. Dahil? Dahil sa ginawa nilang paraan na hindi magkagulo.
Local police reported 0 glitches and no untoward incidents so far.
So far, normal. Generally peaceful. Tapos walang insidenteng nangyari kasi meron tayong sinusunod na procedures.
Nearly 7,000 ballots are expected to be cast in Tubaran, completing over 685,000 votes across Lanao del Sur. All certificates of canvass or COCs, except those from Lanao del Sur, have been transmitted to the COMELEC main office. Aside from local positions, the pending votes are also crucial in determining the winning party list groups. The poll body says they are targeting to proclaim winning candidates by Thursday or Friday. For News 5, Jenny Dongon, We Are One News.
These are the other big stories tonight. Appointed Labor Secretary Bienvenido Laguesma lays down his plans for the country's workforce. Will he put an end to contractualization? There might have been no post-election surge, but the health department has been seeing a steady uptick in infections. OCTA warns of a weaker surge come mid-June. And Coach Chot Reyes talks about one key factor in Gilas Pilipinas SEA Games heartbreak. More of these big stories after the break.
Bilang Pilipino, bilang Pilipino.
You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Ed Lingao.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. For decades, politics has always been a family affair in the Philippines, and that was made more evident in the recent polls.
And every election year, experts warn that dynasties have been growing fatter and fatter, with family members gunning for various posts. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez gives us a front seat to the story.
Siblings, spouses, children, cousins. The Philippine politics has been made the playground of a few select families. Even if one loses at some point, they'll return in no time. According to experts, there are two kinds of political dynasties.
Thin dynasty, they participate in elections to replace each other. The other category is fat dynasties. They participate in the elections simultaneously and run for different posts.
And election after election, it's the fat dynasties that have dominated. For instance, presumptive President Bongbong Marcos's family solidified their hold on their bailiwick Ilocos Norte. His son Sandro won as congressman while his nephew Matthew retained his post as governor. Their cousin-in-law Cecilia Araneta Marcos as vice governor. Their cousins Angelo and Michael both got their second term as congressman and Loag mayor respectively. And of course, Bongbong's sister Aimee remains a senator. In vote-rich Cavite, Senator Bong Revilla's wife Lani will return as 2nd District Representative. She will exchange seats with her brother-in-law Strike, who will sit as Bacoor Mayor. The couple's son Jolo and Ram have been elected as congressman and provincial board member respectively. Their nephew Iggy Revilla Ocampo won a spot as city councilor in Imus. A study by the Ateneo School of Government in 2019 found that fat dynasties have grown from 19% in 1988 to 29% in 2017.
Paano kung magkakonduct ng oversight, hindi ka nalang magsasalita ng against sa kanila, no? So ang talo dito, ang taong bayan.
Franco also says the reason Filipinos still vote for people belonging to dynasties is because of utang na loob.
They have relied on them for so long. Nakikita nila na nagbigay sa kanila ng tulong.
There's an anti-dynasty provision in the Constitution. It's found in Article 2, Section 26. However, there's no law to enact it. The late Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago did file an anti-dynasty bill back in 2011, but it's been languishing in Senate ever since. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez, We Are One News.
Contractualization and the transfer of duties to the Migrant Workers Department. These are among the initial plans of appointed Secretary Bienvenido Laguesma for the Labor Department. Laguesma says he will expedite the transition of agencies such as the POEA, OWA, and labor attaches to the newly created Department of Migrant Workers. On contractualization, he plans to consult concerned sectors and Congress to revisit the system. Laguesma would also like to review the situation of Filipino health workers and to see for himself why frontliners tend to opt for working overseas. And to tell us more about his plans for the labor market's post-pandemic recovery, we have with us appointed Labor Secretary Bienvenido Laguesma. Secretary Laguesma, welcome to The Big Story.
Good evening, Ed, and good evening to Gretchen, and good evening to your televiewers. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Maraming salamat.
Oh, no. Thank you, sir, for joining us tonight. Sir, of course, you did talk about contractualization, but let's zoom into one particular aspect. The post-pandemic situation, the need to stimulate more jobs for more Filipinos after the pandemic. How do you intend to go about this? What are your plans to stimulate jobs?
Actually, Ed and Gretchen, my first priority is to look at the capabilities and the readiness of the Department of Labor and Employment, considering their track record during the last 2 years. And I would like to more or less have a feel on how they were able to implement this assistance program for those who have been affected by the pandemic. And just to emphasize, the Department of Labor and Employment actually does not really create jobs, but
Yes,
facilitate,
Yes, sir.
promote, and try to more or less sana we can provide an environment conducive to additional investments, expansion of existing investments, so that more or less we can generate more local opportunities for our unemployed as well as the underemployed sectors of our community.
Yes, sir.
I think I would like to emphasize I do not have the magic wand nor the quick fix solution to the problems confronting our labor force and the economy in particular. But my commitment really is to look at the situation, make the Department of Labor and Employment more responsible, action-driven, and that to make sure that public funds devoted to the workers or the employers, for that matter, should really be spent for that same purpose.
Yes, sir. Sir, well, you did talk about contractualization. Could we talk at least briefly about that? You talked about consulting the stakeholders, pero what about what direction do you want to head in terms of contractualization?
I want to make sure, Ed, I think, and Christian, you are aware that under the present setup, under the labor code, we recognize
Yes, sir.
legitimate, I would like to emphasize, legitimate and permissible job contracting. So it does not really ban all sorts of job contracting except those illegal, no?
Yes, sir.
The pernicious type, no? As I mentioned in my previous interviews, I really would put premium on dialogue and consultation with the labor sector, the most affected. The employer sector are also part of the solution to the problem. And the Department of Labor and Employment should be able to provide the guidance, the direction, and facilitate a more or less not really difficult win-win formula, but to make sure that the workers' rights and interests and welfare should not be prejudiced at the expense also of the employer. So it's quite a difficult balance, Ed and Gretchen, but I believe that with the cooperation, support, and understanding as well as respect from each sector, it's not impossible to find a solution. No, it might not be a perfect solution, but I think we move towards the direction na magkaroon ng kasiguruhan ng trabaho, trabaho na medyo pwedeng ipagmalaki ng mga manggagawa at pwede namang suportahan ng mga employer.
Yes, sir. Sir, huling sundot na lang, sir. Pag-usapan natin ng sweldo naman. Well, recently we've had we've had hikes in the minimum wage, at least regionally. Do you see any need to turn it into a national minimum wage, or would you prefer to still retain it as regional wage boards?
Hindi ako magbibigay kagad ng categorical na answer, Ed and Gretchen, no? Kasi I know the rationale why we have a regional wages productivity board. Because sometime in 1990, the Republic Act 6727,
Yes, sir.
which is the Wage Rationalization Act,
Yes, sir.
was the time na na-create ang regional tripartite wages productivity boards. Unfortunately, through the years, ang focus lang ng board naging wage increases lang It did not really balance it with productivity. So that the employers, yes, the employers should also be able to look at how it will be able to cope up with the needs of the workers and their capacity to pay. And the answer to that is that we should be able to increase also productivity. For after all, workers deserve decent wages for as long as the employers also would be able to have a return on their investment reasonably. So yun yung aking gustong siguro puntahan na direksyon and Gretchen, kasi mahalaga ang partisipasyon at kooperasyon ng sektor na pinaglilingkuran ng Department of Labor and Employment. Hindi pwedeng ang bumabalangkas lamang ng solusyon ay Department of Labor and Employment at magpalabas lamang ng mga department orders o kaya naman ay humabi ng batas na yun nga magtatadhana ko nung dapat gawin. Malaki po ang stake
Yes, sir.
ng labor sector at saka ng employer sector dito at ang iba pang other stakeholders sa Department of Labor and Employment. At kami po gagabay, tutulong at gagawin ng mandado na sana mapanatili natin ang mabuting ugnayan ng manggagawa at namumuhunan nang sa ganun naman makaakit tayo ng mga investments hindi lamang dito sa ating local investors kundi yung mga foreign investors na sa ngayon nagmamasid. Ano ba ang direksyon na
Yes, sir.
pupuntahan ng Marcos Jr. Administration? At
Okay.
Gusto ko pong sabihin, Ed and Gretchen, na sincero po, matapat po ang Pangulong Halal natin na si Pangulong Halal Bongbong Marcos Jr. na tignan ang kapakanan ng manggagawa, subalit wag naman po at the expense din ng employers kasi sa akin nga pong sariling pananaw, sila ay social partners po ng ating gobyerno.
Yes, sir. Maraming salamat po, incoming Labor Secretary Bienvenido Laguesma. Sir, thank you for joining us tonight.
For the big story in sports, it's back to the drawing board for Gilas Pilipinas after falling short in the 31st Southeast Asian Games. But what exactly went wrong for Gilas? Find out more in my report. After dominating Southeast Asian basketball for decades, the Philippines seemingly lost its grip after falling to Indonesia in the 31st Southeast Asian Games 81-85. Head coach Chot Reyes is taking the blame for the disappointing finish.
I take full responsibility and accountability for the results, okay? There is absolutely no excuse for us to lose in the Southeast Asian Games.
Apart from our neighbors greatly improving in basketball, Coach Chot told 1PH Wag Po that the absence of 4 key players due to varying reasons may have taken a toll on the team.
We were not able to bring the squad that we wanted. And I thought even with the limited preparation, kung nadala natin yung mga players na gusto natin, I think we would have had a better chance.
Gilas, though, will not have much time to sulk as they prepare for the upcoming FIBA World Cup qualifiers and the FIBA Asia Cup. This time, the lineup will once again feature collegiate players.
We know na mahihirapan tayo, pero sana maintindihan ng mga kababayan natin that this is all preparatory for the World Cup. Lahat ng ginagawa natin from now until next year, preparasyon lahat yan for August 2023.
Gretchen Ho, We Are One News. Time for another quick break. More of the big stories when we return.
Still watching The Big Story. I'm Ed Lingao.
And I'm Gretchen Hall. The Department of Health has sounded the alarm after detecting an uptick in COVID-19 cases. The OCTA Research Group attributes it to the detection of Omicron subvariants in the country.
While the think tank sees cases peaking by mid-June, it says it will not be as bad as the surge we had back in January. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro with the story.
While it might seem that the post-election surge in COVID infections is out of the picture, the health department is already raising alarm bells on an uptick in infections. Just last week, daily COVID cases grew by close to 10% from the week before. Epidemiology Bureau Dr. Alathea de Guzman says this is most noticeable in Luzon and NCR.
Bagaman mababa na ang ating mga kaso, kinakailangan pa rin nating i-monitor ang mga pagtaas na ito.
OCTA now sees cases peaking by mid-June, although at milder than the outbreak in January. In a worst-case scenario, the think tank projects cases in the country to reach 2,000 to 3,000 daily. Fellow Guido David attributes the increase to the Omicron subvariants detected in the country.
We're not likely to see another lot. These are still subvariants of Omicron. So our immunity protects us at some level.
The pace of vaccination has slowed down in recent months, and David is concerned over the waning immunity of the vaccinated. The general rule is the immunity of the fully vaccinated and even those who had been boosted begins to wane after 3 to 6 months. But since the overall immunity will not wane all at the same time, David said the wall of immunity should still hold.
So we're hoping that the wall of immunity will hold. But even if we have a surge, it won't be as bad as in January. We could have maybe a few thousand cases with not a lot of hospitalization.
But experts remind that there is no room for complacency. To assure the prevention of a serious surge, the public is still urged to get vaccinated and to observe the basic health protocols. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro, we are One News.
It's actually a good reminder for all of us that COVID-19 is still here and that we need to get our booster shots.
And nga, reminder, baka June, merong mild surge.
Oo, June, oo. Naka-booster ka na ba?
Matagal na. Naghihintay ako ng second booster.
Ng next one, oo.
Kasi kung ayaw yung pa-booster, kami na lang pa-booster.
Oo, nag-aantay din ako na magbukas sa age group ko eh. That wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit the webpage onenews.ph. Mask on.
Wash hands.
And stay safe, Philippines. On behalf of Robbie Lampay, I'm Edlin Gao.
And I'm Gretchen Hall. We are One News. Have a good evening.